on WTMJ. We get you warmed up, stretched out, and ready for tip-off. This is Bucks Shoot Around. Now, here's your host, Justin Garcia.
Third and final game of this road trip for the Bucks, the second of which taking place in Texas as they move from San Antonio to Houston tonight, taking on the Rockets. I'm Justin Garcia here with you for the next 30 minutes as we get you set for the final game on this three-game road trip. The Bucks are fortunate enough to return home on Monday and start what's going to be an interesting homestand, a four-game homestand that they have coming up. It starts with the Utah Jazz, who on paper have certainly not been a very good team so far this season. Right now on the outside looking in, 16-20, but a young, challenging team that will present their own obstacles on Monday. And then the second game on that four-game homestand, the biggest one, that is the second matchup the Bucks will have had all season against the Boston Celtics in 5 days from now, Thursday, January 11th. Bucks versus Celtics, round two. And right now, Celtics remain the only team in the East that has not lost 10 or more games. They're atop the Eastern Conference at 27-7. Bucks were given some help last night by the New York Knicks, who rather easily beat the Philadelphia 76ers. That drops Philly to 23-11. So Philadelphia, a game back of the Bucks in the loss column, a game and a half back overall as the Bucks currently sit at 25-10. Much more time to get into that four-game homestand on Bucks Talk later on this evening and as we move along on the show as well. But what is up next for the Bucks is the Houston Rockets, who right now sit at 17-16 on the season. They have been a much, much different team so far this season with some of the signings they made in the offseason, most notably Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks. They wanted to bring in a veteran presence so they could start to compete immediately. Those two players, their addition, Jeff Green as well. And the other big part is the coaching change with Ime Udoka. So it has been a much more mature, even for being a young team, it has been a much more mature team that this Houston Rockets unit has been so far this season. And ready to win is right now they would be in the play-in tournament at 17-16. That is ninth in the Western Conference. And just a game back of the Phoenix Suns, who currently sit at 8th. So we sit currently in a landscape where you've had a lot of consistency in the Eastern Conference. Celtics, Bucks, and 76ers for the duration of this season so far. And we're about 40% of the way through now, moving closer and closer to reaching that midpoint. After tonight's game, the Bucks will have just 5 more games after that before you hit game number 41 on the season. Tonight is game number 36. So you're getting closer and closer to the midpoint. But the point of it is the Celtics, the Bucks, and the Sixers, they've been pretty consistent throughout the season in terms of their win-loss records. Certainly Bucks fans would point to the on-the-court product and say there's been a lot of inconsistency, actually. And there has. But in terms of wins and losses, that trio, that group, has been atop the East all season long. In the West, it's been a much different story. You think about teams that got all the attention coming in. The Phoenix Suns right now would be in the play-in tournament at 19-16. The Lakers, who revamped their roster, who took the Denver Nuggets all the way to the conference finals last year. They were swept, but man, depending on who you listen to, it was the closest sweep in the history of professional basketball. Here the Lakers sit at 17-19 on the season. They're on the outside looking in. LeBron James had some very interesting things to say last night and in the past few days about the struggles of this Lakers team, which has also opened the door for conversations on what the future holds for our old friend Darvin Ham, who is currently the head coach of the Lakers, but he has started to come under attack now by Lakers fans and potentially LeBron James and others on that team. So the Western Conference still continues to be a work in progress. The Warriors sit at 10th. Some people thought the Warriors could win the West. And you have the Houston Rockets in the thick of it all right now at 17-16 on the season. They've been going through some struggles of late, and they've been a very streaky team where it's been wins grouped together followed by losses grouped together for this Houston Rockets team. And that's the type of consistency that they're still searching for. What I would point out is this, in looking at reasons for success for the Bucs tonight, reasons to be optimistic for a Bucs fan. The Houston Rockets, I just mentioned streaks. They've been up and down all season long. They lost their last game last night at home against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So tonight is night 2 of a back-to-back. The Houston Rockets have won games in multiples and lost them in multiples all season long. In other words, there has not been a one-off. They haven't lost one game, then won, then lost the next game. They started the season on a 3-game losing streak. They followed it up with a 6-game winning streak. They followed that up with a 3-game losing streak. Then a 2-game win streak. Then a 3-game losing streak. Then a 5-game win streak, followed by a 3-game losing streak, which then followed up by a 2-game win streak to get them to 15-12 on the season. Then they lost 3 consecutive games. They followed up that skid with a 2-game win streak. They lost last night, and now here they sit. So if the Rockets do win this game, it would be the first time all season they have not started a streak one way or the other. Inconsistency for a young team. But again, the Bucs are going to close out their season series with the Rockets with this game tonight. It was a relatively close game the last time these two teams played at Fiserv Forum just before Christmas. In a game that was ultimately decided by 9 points, that was the start of another streak for the Rockets, dropping them to 13-10 on the season. But they have been a much more professional, I think is the word you would use to describe this team. It's been a professional team this season with the additions of Fred VanVleet, of Dylan Brooks, and what he has brought to that group defensively, and certainly as a veteran presence, and perhaps the largest impact coming from their new coach, Ime Udoka, who we saw the things that he was able to do with that Boston Celtics team in just one season, trying to bring the same to the Houston Rockets. So this will be a challenge for the Bucs, who saw quite a bit of youth at the start of this road trip against the Indiana Pacers in a game that did not go the Bucs' way. And really, starting this past week, the home game with the Indiana Pacers. Then you followed it up with a second game against the Pacers. Then you talk about youth. You saw a ton of that Thursday night in San Antonio against the Spurs, and Victor Wembanyama and that Wemby-Giannis showdown certainly did not disappoint. And now that continues with the Houston Rockets, who, again, even though they have added some veterans, still a very, very young team. We'll take a closer look at the Rockets and some more news around the NBA, as we did get a couple of big updates earlier today. Also, we'll hear from Jay Crowder on the pregame show, but more of a look at Jay Crowder and what he could potentially bring to this team as he gets closer and closer to a return. We'll get to all of that coming up next on Bucs Shoot Around.
Houston, you're going to have a problem.
Middleton the other way, pulls up, straight on 3, got it. Cold-blooded three-pointer there for Chris Middleton. To Giannis, left wing, tie game, 56 seconds to go. Giannis with a ferocious slam right in the face of Keldon Johnson.
The Bucs look to ground the rising Rockets tonight in Houston. Coverage starts at 6:30 with Bucs Shoot Around on your home of the Bucs. News Radio 620, WTMJ, Milwaukee.
Losing sleep lately? The job, the house, the headlines, or investments? How about the feeling your investment partner isn't a partner at all? They might be operating in someone's best interest, but that someone isn't you. It's time for Annex Wealth Management. It's easy. Head to AnnexWealth.com, click the Get Started button. We work in your best interest as a fiduciary. That commitment runs so deep, we put it in writing. Does your advisor do that? Know the difference with Annex Wealth Management. Start at AnnexWealth.com.
Skilled trade workers are the backbone of every community, and also the Army National Guard. Soldiers trained to keep the power flowing, engines running, and in every other trade needed to accomplish the mission. These soldiers are on the fast track to learning skills that can set them up for success at home with companies looking to hire the best. Their resumes are being built through their paid training and part-time service. Find out how you too can learn a trade profession by visiting NationalGuard.com. Sponsored by the Wisconsin Army National Guard. Aired by the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association and this station.
For WTMJ contest rules, visit WTMJ.com/contests.
Here's the truth about marketing your home online. If your home is on the MLS website, it's going to be listed on every online home marketing website out there. And when you agree to a full-service listing with Benefit Realty, your home will be there too, to make sure every online shopper gets a chance to see it. Get full-service, expert real estate services and marketing, all at only 3.5 to 3.9% commission. This is Angela Calais with Benefit Realty, where we'll make your move simple and affordable. Benefit-realty.com. It's a competitive real estate market. And with that, you need an expert to market your home so that it sells fast. And most importantly, at a great price. Here's the deal. At Benefit Realty, you get all of the expertise you'll find with a 6% broker, and many times even more. But you get it for less. 3.5 to 3.9% real estate commission. At the end of the day, that saves you a bundle. So why pay more? This is Angela Calais with Benefit Realty, where we'll make your move simple and affordable. Benefit-realty.com.
Now, more of Buck Shoot Around on WTMJ.
Well, I mentioned a couple of those names and the veterans that were brought in for the Houston Rockets. They almost brought in Brook Lopez, and Lopez did just do an interview with the Houston Chronicle detailing just how close he came to signing with the Rockets in the offseason, because we entered the offseason with most Bucks fans assuming it's a given that Brook Lopez is going to be back here. And then all of a sudden, as you moved into the first day of free agency and you started to hear the murmurs of the interest that Brook Lopez would have across the league, we heard that name, or that team name, I should say, the Houston Rockets. And as free agency began, we saw not only were the Houston Rockets a team that was going to be linked to Brook Lopez, they were a serious threat to signing Brook Lopez. So he does talk about the timelines and the entire process and just how close he came to leaving Milwaukee and joining the Houston Rockets in an interview and a piece that's out today with the Houston Chronicle. So perfect timing, if you will, for Brook Lopez to go through all of that. So long story short, Brook was one of the veteran names they chased. They did not get. They got Dylan Brooks. They got Fred VanVleet. They got Jeff Green. One of those names will be out tonight, and that is Dylan Brooks. So two big names for the Houston Rockets and what that team likes to do that will not be on the floor in tonight's game. Again, night two of a back-to-back for the Rockets. That part is to point out as well, but there will be no Dylan Brooks and no Tari Eason in this matchup tonight for the Bucks and the Rockets. And last time these two teams met, it was a Bucks victory. It was a game that was decided by less than 10 points. It was essentially a 10-point Bucks win. They led for the duration of the fourth quarter, and that was right in that stretch, a week before Christmas, when it really seemed like, I wouldn't say peaking, but the Bucks were starting to approach that corner and show a lot of that growth that we've mentioned on this program, on Bucks Talk as well, that we continued to see really up until last week, up until those two Pacer games when you took a little bit of a step backward. But Tari Eason did play in that game on the 17th of December and was rather impactful off the bench in his 30 minutes. So that is a big blow for the Rockets. Same for Dylan Brooks, who also did not finish that game on the 17th, getting a double technical foul and ejection. So those are two big names that are going to be out for the Houston Rockets in the game tonight. There is one big name that is out for the Bucks, and he has been out for roughly the last 8 weeks. But we heard a couple of things during the broadcast on Thursday, and Jay Crowder has been, not that he's been around the team more than he has of late, because he's been with the team throughout, as we've seen on those games, but we've started to hear some more information about Jay Crowder and just how close he is to a return. So I will get to the updates on that and some of the things he had to say in an interview he did earlier today with Dave Kane, which you will hear on the pregame show momentarily here. We'll get to the latest on Jay Crowder and what to expect from Jay Crowder. Where's the biggest boost that this team is going to get from Jay Crowder? We'll get into all of that after this on Bucks Shoot Around.
Hey, it's WTMJ's Greg Matzik. When we learned about dangerous radon levels in our home, protecting our family became priority number one. We called Lifetime Radon Solutions, a local family-owned company we knew we could trust. Lifetime has certified technicians with first-class training and years of experience. They were in and out, installing a mitigation system in less than a day. Call my friends at Lifetime Radon today for a free home test. Lifetime Radon took care of our family. They'll do the same for you. Why risk it? Call Lifetime Radon Solutions today. LifetimeRadon.com.
Vince Vitrano for Great Lakes Landscape. I take pride in my yard, and this spring, I plan to spend more time enjoying it with help from Great Lakes Landscape. The off-season is when you look ahead to a landscape maintenance package for 2024. Take feeding your lawn. You could spend just as much buying bags of fertilizer and applying it yourself. Why not get Southeast Wisconsin's premier installation and maintenance company to do it for you? They'll custom build a plan to beautify and maintain your yard, from mulch to shrubs to a lawn that's the envy of the neighborhood. It's Great Lakes Landscape, WI.com.
While you rest on the weekends, we work for you. Wisconsin's Weekend Morning News with Libby Collins. The latest in news.
Former Attorney General Bill Barr, do you believe Donald Trump is fit to be president?
Entertainment.
Matt Miller from OnMilwaukee.com.
I cried in this Godzilla movie. I cried
No, you
3
didn't.
times. I did.
And more.
The top 10 most dangerous Christmas songs to drive to this holiday season.
Every Sunday morning starting at 8 on WTMJ. You're listening to Bucks Shoot Around on WTMJ.
Bucks in Houston tonight, wrapping up a 3-game road trip, a chance to go 2-1. We didn't touch much on that game Thursday night against the Spurs, but look, it was sold on Giannis versus Victor Wembanyama. We did not see Wemby in the first matchup when the Spurs came to Milwaukee. So there was certainly the hope and optimism we would finally get to see the guy that Wemby maybe resembles the most. Obviously, it seems like he's going to be a better shooter from the outside than Giannis, but when you think about his style of play, the unicorn aspect, his size, his ball handling ability, the defense that he brings, Giannis is that guy that you would first go to for the comp, and we finally got to see that on Thursday night. It did not disappoint, as Giannis finished that game scoring 40-plus points. And Victor Wembanyama just as good as well. 44, 14, and 7 for Giannis in the game. I think everybody is certainly well aware of the highlight of Wemby blocking Giannis, and that was a very pivotal play as well. As you think about Wemby hitting the game-tying 3 earlier in that fourth quarter, late portion of the fourth quarter, but Wemby hitting that 3. You had Giannis sinking back-to-back threes, very reminiscent of the nights in Brooklyn, when Giannis became the franchise's all-time leading scorer on a three-pointer, and a much-needed three-pointer late in that game, and then Wemby blocking Giannis in a play that would have sealed the game. So there was a lot of dramatics in that one, but it was a big win for the Bucks, because after those 2 games against the Pacers, I would not label that a must-win game, but you enter that game needing to leave feeling better about yourself, needing to see some growth on the defensive end of the floor. Did you see as much as you were hoping for? Not really, against a Spurs team that struggles offensively, but you saw a little bit more. And again, when you get Jay Crowder back, it is not going to fix everything, but it is going to help this team take a big step forward, because I think when you look at the last roughly 2 months, we can point to the bench scoring, and that's not where Jay Crowder is going to give you the biggest assist. But it does seem like his absence has really taken a toll on the second unit. You've dealt with other players in and out of the lineup, nowhere near as much as it was a season ago. Let's be clear about that. Giannis is still, knock on wood, only missed 1 game this season. Damian Lillard has only missed 2. And the Bucks aren't the only team that's been this fortunate with injuries. It has kind of been the story of the league play this season. Whether that has to do with just being further and further removed from 2 very, very strange seasons in the 2020 playoffs and the following year as well. Whether it's that, whether it's the new initiatives the league put forward with the player participation policy, who knows? But we have seen a lot more players playing throughout the course of this season. All that said, with no Jay Crowder, you think about the impact it's had on this Bucks bench. That's one big piece of your second unit that's gone. And it may not be Jay Crowder scoring 20 or more points, but Jay Crowder was giving you about 10 points per game, and it was the defense that was holding things together as well. Somewhere along the way, you have to make up those points. We've seen spurts of it from Bobby Portis, but as I talked about the Houston Rockets being a team that's really been up and down. They win 3 in a row, they lose 3 in a row, they win 6 in a row, they lose 3 in a row. They haven't had any one-offs. We've kind of seen the same from Bobby Portis, where he went into a little bit of a prolonged slump moving into right before Christmas. Then you have that 6-game homestand, and Bobby Portis was one of the biggest contributors during that stretch. He was the third leading scorer on the team. He was shooting better than 50%, nearly 45% on his threes. It was a much different version of Bobby Portis, and that's basically what we've seen in home games. But the Bucks are still striving for that consistency. You can have one of those types of games from Bobby the very next day. You would have a stat line like you saw Thursday night, 5 points in 21 minutes, 2 of 6 from the floor. It's been pretty similar for Pat Connaughton, and as many good things as we've seen from the two young players, Marjon Beauchamp and Andre Jackson Jr. Look, they're still young players. It is the second year for Marjon. It is a rookie season for Andre Jackson Jr. that you are going to have inconsistencies with young players. So you need Jay Crowder back, if for no other reason than consistency and another body that's capable of doing multiple things for that second unit. But again, defensively, we've started to see things bubble up once more these really last 10 days, 2 weeks. Jay Crowder is a guy that certainly will help there. And some of the lineup combinations we see the Bucks play, when you go smaller and want to switch more, you need Jay Crowder for that. So he is nearing a return, cleared to do some 5-on-5 as of this weekend, and I mentioned it before. Monday would be 8 weeks to the day, and that was the timeline we were given. So it is getting very, very close to Jay Crowder's return. Bucks in Houston to take on the Rockets. And as always, be sure to stick around after the game for Bucks Talk. We'll talk to you then.
Why Z-Bart? Because cars, trucks, and SUVs